Okay. So I'm always at
We're doing
home.
that.
You're doing it too?
Doing
Handing it
drinks
out.
and drinks and hot dogs
What's that?
at the Methodist Church
With
on the yard.
trick or treater?
No, at the
Cheryl wants one now. That's why she's
Parade.
asking.
Yeah, I'm like, when is it?
Cheryl wants a hot dog.
parade at the
At the
fireman's
parade,
festival.
okay.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Fireman's festival. parade.
Okay.
All right, we will go ahead and call to order the Finance Committee meeting for Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. Chip is here, Cheryl is here, I am here, Jim, Jack, Chief Bailey, and Teresa. Do we have anybody online? It doesn't look like it. No. All right. First item up, action on minutes from the 18th and then the special meeting on the 20th. I believe we are all here, so we can do this in a block. Is there any changes or additions?
I did not see any
I didn't have any
changes.
change.
I'll entertain a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Finance Director report and bank to book reconciliation. Dana is not here, but
It looks good.
Yes,
it does.
the numbers are looking good. With the holding has increased. This says by 26.3% from last year.
That's great.
Well, the overall, yes.
Yes, the number itself looks fantastic. Relative to other years, I think we're 42% of the way through the year and we're 48% collected to budget. So always a good benchmark to be at. I was looking too through the revenue piece, the right-of-way fund, we're only 9.5% collected to what we had budgeted. Was curious, and I'm sure some of that's just timing and everything like that associated with that, but
I don't
curious.
think he sent the bills yet. have you?
Yeah, generally, they don't pay to the very end of the year is
Yeah.
is when they pay that, but the bills haven't even been distributed yet.
Yeah, that's the timing associated with it. But that got me to thinking with the recent updates that we made to the right-of-way ordinances, and we did make a couple changes relative to the original document that the consultant presented us. Has there been any feedback or anything for anybody that's seen that, or has anybody seen that at this point?
I have not, and
I haven't heard anything.
I'm curious to see what the amount is, because if you recall on that, the collectible items was reduced. So I really am not sure what we're going to get back this year, because a big thrust of our collections were on oops locates in the right of way. And if I recall correctly, they said that had been reduced, what we could count. So I'm not sure what that budget's going to be.
All right.
So
We'll be interested to see what comes into that, because we did have expenses that we allocated for this year
mhm,
out of that fund.
out of last year's collection.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we did not spend in anticipation. That was already collected money.
And then the only other question that I had, and this was something that I would like to make a note for Dana, just to maybe update finance if anybody else shares the same curiosity, the interest that we have out there.
I don't understand it.
We're at negative 7.5% year to date. So I have a curiosity around
Mhm.
the strategy, who manages it, what potential limitations there might be on what we can do. And I'm sure there are as municipal, municipal side of things. But as well as things did last year, I'm curious why we're at negative 7.5% this year. And it's not a lot. It's less than $2,000, but still
true.
relative to the balance of the market, you think that we'd be
Mhm.
doing better than that.
And I just know from personal experience that my investments are making money, and I don't know why these are not, unless there's some restriction that these have been put into some fund that doesn't pay any interest.
Mhm.
And I don't understand that.
Because then I'd like to know the
'Cause
difference.
it made money last year. If
Right.
it made money last year, it should be making money this year,
Yeah.
unless there was some change that we don't know about.
Right.
We can have her
Yeah, she's
dig into that.
gotta,
Okay.
At the very least, just for
and maybe
education.
bring the banker here to explain it to us.
Just curious.
The other thing is, money we got back from the state on the,
Workman's comp.
workman's comp. Where does that, where did those funds, where did we put those?
I think general fund revenue.
Just into general fund?
I think from what I understand is they go back to the fund from which they were expended.
I was,
So there's
I
a
was reading
percentage
an article
breakout.
about Newark and where they found all this. Their workman's compensation fund rebate is paying for additional paving for them. And it's like, where did we put our money?
I think from what
Just threw it
Dana,
into the general fund, or did we?
I think from what Dana has said before, similar to like the surplus auction revenue is that it goes back into the fund from which it was like originally expended. So like the police car auction item would go back into general fund for the police department, line
I don't
item.
have a problem with that, but.
And similar to the workers' comp, there's a
Workers'
percentage
comp.
breakout.
We're just into the general fund.
General fund and then water, sewer and things like that.
I mean, with their size of police force and service departments, it's probably a pretty
a
solid.
good portion.
Yeah,
yes.
they've got a lot more employees. I
Yes.
understand that, but I'm just,
That's my understanding.
Just
We
was
can ask Dana
curious
for more
where the-
clarification.
anyhow.
The other item that I was going to bring up too, and I've asked Dana about it as well, and I really don't know if she has, I don't think she has any additional information, but just to put it out there because it's still an outstanding item is the opioid settlement fund, money from the state that was from 2 years ago, I think is when that settlement happened. Obviously extenuating circumstances over the last, 16
know.
months,
I don't know
but I haven't seen
Anything. on
any
it.
update
No.
on where that money is.
Other than
So I,
emergency benefit manager, they just collected a settlement with them. On one of them,
okay,
and a bunch of money to the state. I don't know whether it's flowing down to us or whether it's just stops wherever
yeah,
it stops.
but it'd be nice to have an update or try and figure out what that update might be. And I'm not saying that I think it's us specifically. I think most likely affecting everybody, but it'd just be nice to have some kind of update about what's going on. So we'll put that out there as well.
And, if we can, under the federal ARPA program, since we're losing money on gas tax, we should be able to apply to get some of that back.
There's a specific formula.
We're making up for lost revenue.
Mhm.
That's the one that I think we'll notice it first.
Street fund we knew was going to be tight this year to begin with. Anyway,
And the other question I had was on the 62 project,
Mhm.
like, the money that's still showing in here. Do we owe them money or
Or say another next year.
we can't?
We were given an invoice of change orders. What was that? 10 change orders, 9 change orders for 300 and some thousand.
We're not paying this, or
Well, I called their people and said, yeah, we have change orders, but we had non-performed change orders too. So I'm not paying just the increase. I want to know what the net balance is. And frankly, we didn't approve many of these change orders. So I haven't heard back from them.
We've never heard
Okay.
back. Yeah. And we've never heard back.
it's a large dollar amount, isn't
But
it?
if we
350?
recall,
That's what I thought.
300
Yeah.
and
but if we recall the bridge situation,
Yeah,
I mean, it was what, 18 months later?
at least.
They
Yeah.
sent us a $60,000 bill. Am I remembering that correctly?
do we tell them to go pound salt, or do we?
No, they said pay it or you don't get funding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we
guess we
worked how we
reconsider.
could with, but yes, Jim made that initial call. It said, yes, we'll there was a large section where they were supposed to lower and move the 12-inch water main. We found a way to work around it. So that would be a non-performance. So that ought to come off of any change orders, and none of us, because I checked with Mike Guttridge, because he was the on-street check. They've not contacted him ever since Jim made that phone call. But I would not say it's a done deal, because as I said, the bridge, it was 18, we thought we were done, and 18 months later,
Bill showed up.
a bill showed up.
Yeah, right, it did.
That was even before we got the balance back to us, because there was a 6-figure balance, I believe,
Yes.
that we got back from that. It was 2 years after the end of the project.
And then I think the other keynote that Jim said on that phone call, because I think I was sitting in the office when he called him. You probably won't find any village signatures on any of these change orders, or at least not on anything to amount to that. So that kind of puts them in a bind too, because we didn't approve it. So, but again, I would just be patient with that, because their wheels turn a little slower on getting stuff done.
It's fair.
That's all.
Cheryl, do you have anything?
No.
I think bank the book looks good. The check reconciliation, there's a handful that will be voided here this year. Everything else looks to be in line. We'll reach out to Dana with those couple call outs for that. So if there's nothing else there, then we'll move on to everybody's favorite topic, item number 4, the lighting cost comparisons, which is making its way now into its second committee. And then having spent several meetings with it in safety and service, ended that piece, and safety and service had charged finance with looking into the financial ROI, cost benefit analysis of whether, it would be worth it potentially, but what it would be worth, what the cost would be of taking care of it in-house, because it sounds as if this LED switch is something that's going to happen regardless. It's just a matter of time, and whether AEP takes care of it or we take care of it. And it sounds, to me, it feels similar to how we've swapped out the street signs with the reflectivity. And
Mhm.
you just
Budget it and work it.
But Jack, I'll send it over to you with the spreadsheet that, or the information that you kind of put out here for finance.
Well, I had Mike Guttridge call and get some pricing. Now, the first thing I want to make clear is these are not the complete high-end LED lights that AEP was talking about. These are what we've been using to convert over. We have 258 street lights that need converted. He's got on here, $43 roughly for each one for $11,000 cost. And then 193 hours, 194 hours is guesstimate to install said lights. Contractor quoted a price of $5,300 to do the installation. He would come in and do them all at once. But then the other question came up. If they're flat rate billing us, if we put these LED lights in, we're not going to save a penny, because we're still going to get billed the flat rate. They will save. We won't. So to me, the question came into, why don't we continue to do what we're doing? Just change them as they go bad, one at a time, unless it's council's wish to get them all done at once. Then if you look at the labor hours, I would suggest we could buy the lights and just have a contractor for $5,000 come in and do them, if that's what you want. Because the cost isn't going to be that much of a savings. And if our guys are doing that, they're not working on the roads. So for $5,000, if it is your wish, I would just have a electrician, basically is who it is, going to come in and install them.
Now, Jack, when you said we don't really save that much money
We don't save any money
with the else,
because they're charging us a flat rate. So if we go,
AEP, you mean?
yes, so if we go to a more efficient bulb, they're still going to charge us the flat rate.
Okay,
It's not metered. See, what they were going to do is put in a light that then would be metered
Mm.
and have it dimmed to use less power. And, what we're getting our hands on here is just an LED light, just as we changed these out.
Okay,
Now, the problem, not these, but over in Jim's office. The difference is we're on a meter on those, but these lights, we could change these out, but they're still gonna bill us flat rate. So they're gonna charge us the same whether we change them to LED or leave them the way they are.
And does their flat rate include the cost of the whatever
Maintenance.
kind of fixture we have there?
Well,
If the fixture goes bad, do they come and replace the fixture?
no, we do.
We do, so we don't save anything there.
No. See, when, it is a better, more efficient light. We'd probably have less time changing bulbs and stuff like that. However, the cost is the cost because it's a non-metered system. They're just sending us a bill.
What about the ones that are on
AEPs,
the other one?
Go up.
Go up.
Co-op. I can never think of them.
also flat rate.
Okay. They're both the same.
Yeah.
Who has the better rate?
Actually, I think AEP does.
The concerning part for me again is the AP didn't seem like they even knew which fixtures were ours, what was billed, what was on a bill, what wasn't on a bill.
I don't think they did.
So it's hard to even understand if the numbers that were projected were accurate. But at the end of the day, it feels like AEP is going to do better in the long run, regardless of whatever scenario plays out, because they either purchase our system, upgrade everything, and charge us a higher rate, which we've seen will bear out over time. And then we lose the integrity, we lose the autonomy of maintaining the system ourselves and are subject to whatever maintenance schedule, they would have. Or B, we do it on our timetable and have to budget it. It's, a little bit more, it's money out of pocket, from us initially, but we maintain the integrity of our system. We can still have the autonomy to do with what we want. But we're charged a flat rate when we're probably using less electricity than what we're being charged. So at least that gets us to maybe a closer to a net zero bill with just being charged what we are instead of absorbing a higher rate in the long run anyway.
well, I did listen to those safety and service presentation that A&P gave, and it was very convoluted. It looked like we were going to pay more money in the long run, and they were going to give us the lights that they wanted to give us, where we don't have a choice in the type of lights. And I didn't like anything about it. I'd rather just keep it ourselves and do our own thing and figure out how to get the lights, and maybe just take our time as we have been doing. I don't know, but I'm definitely not interested in the AEP proposal. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree that the AEP thing was crazy and I don't want to go down that road.
Mm-mm.
They'll have to come back with a better offer.
I think we need to come back with a simpler option.
Excuse
Yeah.
me.
First step.
And if we find a fixture, a nicer fixture that we want to change them to, we can do that and just,
Yeah.
buy 100 at a time and or whatever.
I think,
So
go ahead.
should I inform AEP of at least 3 members decision? I'm sure you probably got Marvin on your side.
Marvin, yeah.
We know that for sure.
We can, well, I'll bring it up during the recap for finance tonight and see if anybody has any objection, because now it's been through 2 committees and I feel pretty confident in saying the 2 safety and service members that aren't here tonight probably share a similar sentiment,
You would agree, I
of
think.
not wanting to put words in their mouth. But to that end, give everybody the ability to voice concern or support, and then we can go from there. But
I
I think we can give them an answer and move on from this point.
Yeah,
And then
I
I think the conversation moves to the deadline and then how we can back into that from a budgeting standpoint based off of how
Mhm.
comfortable we are with the numbers you have and
Mhm.
what we want to ultimately do and things like that. But
Excuse me, is
That's
there, Jack, is there a deadline that we have to have LED or not?
No, that deadline kind of came up
Yeah.
listening to Doug, in my opinion.
Mhm.
He's saying that the sodium lights that we're using now are being phased out, and in a year or 2 years, they may not be available.
Right. But then you just go with the,
But then you just go with
New fixture and
the change out fixture,
yeah.
so.
Maybe it's hinging on the PUCO decision with what AEP has submitted. And if that
Yeah.
goes through, then maybe they'll have a deadline out at that point. I don't know.
But, are the sodium lights going to go away? They're here today, tomorrow they're gone. Yeah, I doubt that. Their stock and their supply. And like I said, for $43, instead of buying a new sodium light, we would just buy the kit to change it over if the light went bad,
Mhm.
is the way I would look at it. Now, if council wants to, September, set up a budget to, okay, Jack, we want to change 20 a year, we want to change 50 a year or something, we would set a budget for that.
Like a part of town at a time or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that. A couple
a
streets or a
street
couple blocks.
I think that would
mean-
be
I
a
mean,
good
to-
idea, really.
To change them all, if you had a contractor do it, you're talking about $17,000.
I agree that we should contract that out.
Yeah.
Guys they don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so,
Proficient.
well, the $5,000, I mean, that's a small number for the labor. I was really surprised it was that inexpensive.
Mhm.
And if we do have, maybe through this process, if we can get an understanding if there is some wiring or something like that that needs fixed along the way, that we can address that as a part of this
Mhm.
as well. But since we'll have somebody who's a qualified electrician
Yeah.
along the way.
I agree.
It is somewhat of a capital project, but over time.
Oh, that's true.
Well, I agree. This would be a capital project, is how we'd set it up.
Mhm.
So maybe you want to do a motion and a vote from finance and then take that to council?
Sure. I mean,
I'll make the motion
make the
to
motion.
not move forward with the AEP presentation and proposal and keep this in-house.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Got rid of that?
All right. The next item we have here, and again, Dana isn't here, but I figure we can put it on here just to discuss, some of the logic behind it. Chip, I know you were on the presentation as well with software solutions. Sherry, were you ultimately able to see anything from that?
I did
or-
not, no,
Okay.
no.
Jim, or did you see anything?
No, I was in a different meeting.
Okay. Well, basically, and not want to put the cart before the horse, but, and I don't know your opinion or view from it, Chip, what you saw, but it looked like a pretty impressive program.
I'll give you my thoughts about it. It's very impressive program.
Mhm.
It does everything but cook your breakfast in the morning.
Mhm.
However, the amount of money, the cost of this thing is I think it's out of our means. And the yearly, not just if you bought all of the various parts of the package, and then you also then look at the yearly costs. It just, if we're Beverly Hills, yeah, I could see we're doing this, but we're not. And it'd be nice. It's wonderful. As I said, it does everything but cook your breakfast, but can we really afford that?
Yeah, so
That's my overriding
Yeah,
thoughts on it.
I concur.
I agree. And
Okay, I'm glad you came to the same point.
when I originally asked Dana to look into it, because we are getting the ARP funds, what was it, 18 months ago, that price tag was like 80 grand.
Yeah,
And I think
but
that's-
75.
That's something that we could probably digest.
Mhm.
And I was fully supportive at that price because of the way utility billing works and accounts payable. Whew, 175, that's tough to look someone in the eye and the public on the street and say, when my street is crumbling,
Right.
what do you bought the Cadillac, or actually the Porsche.
Bentley.
Yeah.
Gotti or
With that being said, we need something, because actually Teresa and Jack and I today were talking about, that system's been in place for 20 years, maybe
Close.
15. I've been here 12. It's been here every bit of 12.
Yeah, it's at least 15 to 17 years. My question, Jim, I didn't see the presentation, was what is different from 18 months ago to today? What changed from 80,000 to
I can't answer that.
175,000? Because before the $80,000 product it was the Bentley. I mean, what is there more or less? You weren't at the presentation, so it's hard to answer, and I wasn't.
And I don't know which pieces of it were included in that cost.
I understood the 175 was the baseline and there were a couple bolt-ons that you could get that would further enhance it from a,
But the 175 seemed to be the base price.
yeah.
That was
Yes.
what I was having.
Oh, see, I thought that was everything bolted on.
No.
That was-
I was like,
And it
good
showed like,
Lord,
I think every year you had to pay what, around
35
35 to
There's
40,000.
the maintenance fee.
each
for
year
maintenance.
for maintenance. It was like,
Which our maintenance right now, I think, is 12,000.
It's in that ballpark. I mean, $40,000 is, I mean, that's an employee, half a year.
Well, yeah,
You know?
175 is to police officers.
Yes.
So,
yeah, it's
I mean,
like,
I've always, when we had these conversations, I've always understood for 80,000, 90,000 was that top end piece. And so I was expecting somewhere in that ballpark for like this, but 175,
I was like,
I was pretty blown away.
that's why.
I went into Dana's office and asked if she mistyped that. She said, no, I did not.
It was like,
So, but no matter what we do, we need something.
Sure.
So do we need SSI though? Or do we
No.
need to open our vision?
You could do
to other-
UAN. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff out there.
Yeah.
And that's been the call out before. That's been the question previously. SSI, you have the familiarity, we have the history, the system history and everything like that. But is that what we need? Is that the most, the easiest type to move forward? How do you take that information and port it over to a new platform? There's probably going to be some difficulty in doing that.
And there would be, even if we went with the
Right.
Bentley, because they're not going to onboard us until 2022 or something. So there is still that learning curve. Even though we are a current SSI customer, there's still going to be that curve.
now, was this vendor the current vendor?
It is?
Yeah.
Here's my question. Okay, was it 2 years ago we approved funding for SSI, right? Didn't we get some type of new system?
Well, we have iWorks,
Yeah, that was a
Which-
different maintenance system.
For
yeah.
finance.
not for
That
fun,
wasn't the finance.
It wasn't
Talked
finance.
about.
That was the Jack's stuff.
work order management and asset
Okay.
management,
Okay,
which you'll see an update tonight about that.
okay.
Well-timed comment.
Let's hope it's not the same. cost.
So this hasn't been changed in about 17 years, you said, or 18?
I'm gonna say that's about right. Yeah.
My opinion is I think we've got an understanding of the Bentley.
Mhm.
Let's shop around. And let's see what else.
I
what
think we
else
got to
might be
go
out
back to
there.
them and say, hey, this is totally out of,
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
nice, but this isn't what we're looking for.
If they've got a
My-
second tier or third tier or something.
My
like
surprise was what has happened in the last 18 months. Because we had an all-in $80,000 number. What happened? What are we asking for more?
Right.
What we asked for then?
I don't know. I can't answer.
See, I don't know.
We'll have to ask.
It's been $80,000 for.
I mean, that's not
several
like a
years.
5% increase or something,
It
it-
didn't go from 80 to 90. It was-
Yeah.
80 with
Yeah,
But
Fed money, maybe,
S-
but not,
Defendable.
but it's defendable. It's not defendable at $175,000. Well, maybe, but
Robot.
$17 an hour service to type it in.
well, I'd rather keep Dana.
I would too.
175 is pretty.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it was chokeable, quite frankly.
Well, Frank, I think all of us agree, we don't want to go with that program. It's just too costly. So if Dana can find some other programs at a lower price that would upgrade our system or,
And is it,
that's more in a reasonable price range for Johnstown, Ohio.
is it our current system is well, it's
He said
antiquated,
it's antiquated.
antiquated,
It probably is.
but is it, they'll no longer service it and it dies like so many programs are doing now.
Yeah, Microsoft already,
Yeah, 10 is
10 is
dead.
going out in 2025
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
as we're just getting ready to upgrade it.
yeah, of course. So we have to
Maybe-
find something else.
I think it's gotta be on I'm surprised they still service it, to be honest. It's 17 years old on a software platform. That's
It's pretty good.
going way of the dinosaur.
With the power pivot type tools that Microsoft's coming out with and people are doing, then I think it's going to be sooner rather than later if you don't modernize what you have. Especially with
Yeah.
the type of reporting that people want to get from the data that's being derived from the financial side of things. So I
Of course, the
think it's going
12,
to behoove us to look for something. It's just,
Yeah.
what is that something?
and I agree with that. We need to upgrade, but the reason I think it's still workable is obviously that 12 to $15,000 you were playing. We do get the updates and upgrades. I mean, that's part of that package.
I think what the problem where SSI would wash their hands is if something wiped our system out and they had to come back and, rebuild it. Absolutely. They still answer our phone calls and
Yeah.
whatnot, but I got to assume if it's a major
That's
problem,
what we're paying.
12 grand isn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
Which brings us to another issue is our server cloud versus whatever else is out there issue.
Yes.
We need to focus on that before we focus on the various pieces that will run on it.
So
So that's
actually talked to our IT guy yesterday. We've identified each license requirement. It's going to be about $250 a year per user for all of the applications that they need. It's all internet based unless they want to download it to their computer. So they can get on anything they want, no matter where they're at with a connection. The upgrade or them to come in and just program everybody's computer is going to be like $3 grand.
each.
No,
Oh, total.
total. It's a fairly simple process. And then, compared to about 100, I think you said 110,000 for the email server, to have a physical online or on-site server. So we're ditching that because that is not supported as of today. So everyone will be on the same 365 platform, including council. More software to buy. Everything's there. It's pretty nice, actually.
And whatever we now that decision seems to be made, whatever we buy as far as the finance package has to be able to run on that system.
No, it'll be a separate system.
I mean, it'd be separate, but doesn't it have to be compatible?
The big thing is compatibility with iWorks because that's where the work orders are managed. But just like Teresa or Laura brings up SSI today, and then you got Microsoft Office over here, they don't
They don't
talk to
We're
each
not
other.
talking to each other. Okay.
But there are systems that do need to talk to it.
Could we reach out to iWorks partners and understand if they have any leads on systems that they integrate with?
I think they have a financial system, don't they?
I think they do.
Maybe.
That's a
quick
good
and easy
idea
fix.
to check that out.
So real quick, just
I mean, we're a current customer of theirs.
Right.
They should be wanting
that-
to sell us something else. you
And to your
know?
point, if that's the compatibility piece,
The thing about the iWorks, it was, it's a modular build. They had different modules that if you wanted, if you needed.
So was SSI.
Well, but I mean, the good thing there would be for Dana to look at it and see if
Oh,
it
yeah. I mean, I'm
fits
not
her
trying to cut
needs,
her out.
their modules. Is it sophisticated enough for what
Yeah.
work she needs to get done? So that communication could be there.
so this is what people will see depending on the level through 365. So they can just go to a website. And then if they want Microsoft Word, boom, there's all your Word. We can share a OneDrive where it's common. So it's all backed up in the cloud, nothing stored on site. Right now, we use a combination of Dropbox and a physical server. So we would probably just migrate everything over to OneDrive once we're switched.
And
That way we don't have a Dropbox account, a OneDrive account, a 365.
Dropbox is very convenient, by
I
the way,
love Dropbox.
very convenient. Especially how we have it built into with the website with being able to reference everything within there.
So we'll have to test run to make sure that still stays. Maybe we do keep Dropbox. Maybe that is our cloud storage platform,
I just a cloud-based anything just makes it so
Yeah.
much simpler.
but we're paying that $250 a month is actually paying for that. I think 2 terabytes of storage. So
and it has,
Dropbox is $1,000 a year.
and it has built-in safety, that if the power goes out, you still have access to it. I mean, if you got your current physical server sitting there, you know, and our power goes out,
As long as you have an internet connection, you can still get on it.
you can still get onto the internet, it can get you to the cloud. So, you know,
So that's bad. That's bad if you don't have the physical document downloaded or something and it goes out. Because you can tell it to maintain the document on your hard drive and the cloud, or just the cloud. If you don't have it on your hard drive and you lose internet connection, then
you're sunk.
you're done. I don't think that's going to be anybody's problem on the staff. Maybe me out in boondocks every once in a while, but
Hotspots are
Yeah.
popping up all over
Can
the
you do
place.
hotspots out there?
Phones,
Yeah.
lots.
yeah, I have one similar to like the service department and police department. I have a 4G hotspot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I just might suggest that we reach out to iWorks, see what they might have, and if Dana can partner in that respect and see to your point, if it's compatible with what she needs, and we know that's compatible.
And
with
if SSI
work order.
has a package that's more reasonable.
Sure.
I mean, they should.
What's the size limitation on the OneDrive?
I don't know. You mean per document or
No,
total?
total.
I think it's 2 terabytes per account.
Okay.
But that's per high level account. Like your officers they're just going to be using email for the most part.
Right. So they just get like a base, and then like directors or what may nots get like 2 terabyte.
Correct. But we'll have to navigate that to see if we jump from Dropbox or something like that.
Then for your needs as far as office backup of officers, body cameras and those kind of things.
So that would, that's starting a trend where it's going to be cloud-based storage. The option that I just went with, I'm going to be able to store them on my server, which right now is by far the most cost-efficient way of doing it. Because if I did go cloud-based, I would have to basically pay for maybe 30 terabytes of space, because you're dealing with high resolution body cams and car cams. So it basically puts us in a whole other ballpark. Right now, I've got 24 terabytes on my server with a mirrored backup. So even if one drive fails, then I can hot swap that drive, put a new drive in, and then the backup will automatically rebuild it, and then it's back up and running. So
Okay.
right now, it's no out-of-pocket expense at all for the body worn cameras.
And
Perfect.
It does not look like iWorks has a financial platform.
It is not.
if we have a power outage,
So that's the big thing right now that we're kind of struggling with. We really need to take a very close look at the generator back there to ensure that the generator is kicking up and working. The UPS that we have is just not robust enough to handle basically a 3-minute interruption. So if you look at the phone systems, that's what's called PoE, power over Ethernet. So every phone system within the municipality and the municipal building is powered by the network. So the network might spend 24 watts or 30 watts powering that particular device. And if we have 50 devices across the building, you can see that the actual switches are handling maybe 750 watts. So when we lose power, I mean, it drains those UPSs, the interrupted power supply, that quick. So we need to maybe look at 2 different options, either getting a very robust uninterrupted power supply that would be able to handle like a 30-minute influx, or figure out what we're going to do with the generator. The big issue that we are running into right now is where the server is physically located it is not on the battery backup or the generator. So when the generator goes down, that portion of the building is not run by the generator. So we literally have about 2 minutes before we lose internet connection. And then I also lose my server.
That's not good.
That's,
No.
and if you think about it, that's where the tanning salon was.
Exactly. So I think it's, and Jack might have more insight on it, but I think it's just on completely different grid altogether.
And the generator that we have, what is it?
Yeah, what is it?
Is it gas?
Well, it's been unreliable at best. Now, the last repair they made on it, it did work in the last
It did.
2 outages and did not shut itself down. And that was after the last repair because it was over temping and shutting itself off. So that maybe they did get it fixed this time.
Is it a gasoline based generator?
Natural
Is it
gas.
No, that's a natural
Natural
gas,
gas.
which is what we're migrating to is the natural gas.
So
yeah.
it's fed
It's
24/7.
fed 24.
okay.
It's a
Yeah.
constant feed.
And I will say that it ran for at least 2 hours without any issues.
Yeah.
I mean, it ran for a long time.
When it was shutting off, it was over temping. It was getting hot. I mean, Jim and
Quickly,
I,
too.
we were pulling the doors and it was very hot out, but that still should not have happened. But they did some work on the cooling system and radiator system and the last 2 times it did function.
Okay. I was just concerned about the natural gas aspect.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
We just got to
well,
figure out how to get it tied, the network or the
Get the
server
rest
to
of it
tie it in.
tied into it. So
Do we think it's reliable enough to hold any more load?
Well, I think what you'd have to do there is we would get a generator specialist out here, see the load, see what we're wanting to put on it. Is it big enough or is it not big enough? I mean, and I can't answer that question. I'd have to get somebody out here to take a look and make a call on it.
we have, I assume we have, maybe I shouldn't assume, we have generators at both the water plant and the.
You're correct. We have generators at the water plant, sewer plant, and every lift station.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Mhm. That was
Lift
it.
station's pretty, I don't want to say out there, but a lot of communities don't have, so they'll have to start trucking stuff like that if their power goes out. But
And our problem was, and again, thanks to council and everybody for working on that, but we added a generator a year for 7 years. We put that in our budget
Mhm.
to get all those lift stations up because we only had 1 truck and we had 9 lift stations and we
Right, and
couldn't.
Those are all natural.
We
gas
could not
fed.
keep up. I think we have 1, 2, we have 3 diesel, which are the older ones. The rest of them are natural gas. And anything new we put in, we require it to be natural gas.
So the 3 older diesel ones probably should be.
Water plant, sewer plant, and first lift station.
Well, can we do the water plant and the sewer plant as we do those
Upgrades. Yep.
upgrades?
Are already put
Not
in,
just
put
leave
into plan.
One
Old lift station.
lift station needs to be switched.
And I believe that's the Kyber Run lift station there on Mink Street.
Mm.
It takes care of Kyber.
You got a ballpark for conversion?
Yeah.
No.
I think this one we priced out was 60 grand, wasn't it? This one here?
For replacement?
Yeah.
Yes, for replacement. I think what you're talking about is just seeing if we can get a conversion kit to move it
Oh,
from diesel to, and I don't have an idea on that.
Less than 60.
But
Depending on how old it is, whether we. should
old in size.
replace it.
But yes, Mayor, good thought. And we'd already went that way because, well, obviously when we double the size, those generators were put in place to run that
Right.
existing plant.
Old.
Mhm.
You double it in size, we either got to add a second one or we're going to upgrade. And my choice was to upgrade and switch to natural gas.
Great.
Well, I might ask if we can, there's an interest in getting a quote for that
The one
the
that
one lift station,
Oh, well,
converting,
that we don't want
at
to
least converting, but if there's a replacement that's needed.
or replace as necessary.
I can certainly do that.
And then is there any,
Have money that we could do that with, I think.
is there a?
Yeah, we have bonded money.
Right.
Yeah.
We got
that's
to spend
true.
that down.
What about
Working on it.
somebody out here for the admin? What about addressing the admin?
Yes, I'd like to, do we need to?
A generator specialist
Talk
out here
about
for the admin side?
listen?
Well, if you know everything you want, you know, because the first thing he'll ask me is, well, how much power do you need? What are you adding? What are you doing? I'll need to know what all we want before
This
he can
generator?
assess. You know, are we wanting to run the whole building, what types of servers, what, you know,
Say we want to run the whole building.
he'll have to have
We wanna run
some
the whole
answers
server.
before he can assess, is this big enough, or what would it take to replace this?
So two things. Chief is gonna know most about the server loads and requirements. We don't know where the disconnect between the two
Systems are.
systems are. Thank you. You know, so there's gonna be some exploration he's gonna have to do. And then again, I'll lean back on Chief on the load that's gonna be needed to run that thing, in addition to a more suitable UPC.
Cooling, warming,
Yep.
whatever.
Mhm.
I think we
You've
should.
done that before?
Yes, we
Yeah,
have.
I think we,
Right.
Run the whole building.
Yes.
Sure
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I'd say not say that it would be an expense. We may not undertake this year, but at the very least, a capital expense next year. But with the severity of it, knowing, severe weather and everything and the issues we've had with the power outages, the reliability of the power here, and the fact that the police department piece isn't on that is concerning, at least from a near-term standpoint. So,
Chief, does your phone system go out when that happens?
Yes, that's the biggest problem is we lose the
And we
phone
need to
systems.
get at it.
Everybody loses phone systems
We
and
need to do it.
internet.
And
that piece at the very least.
Later.
when we
Absolutely.
updated that with the CARES funds, we didn't realize that
Yeah.
that space was not on the generator.
Well, I-
So that was the only bad thing we learned.
Mhm.
Other than that, it works great.
Every time you turn over a rock, you find something else.
Sure.
Yes. So the nice thing is the generator does pick up and it does run the radios. So we do not lose the radios.
Okay.
The main thing we lose is we lose CAD, which in itself is not a big deal because they can write down in pencil and paper and catch up once the system gets back up and running. But the phone systems, that's critical. So like nobody can call in and get police
911.
services. 911 goes down.
Yeah, it's bad.
because the call center in Newark or sheriff's department, or where does it go?
It does. And then so we basically need to call them and say, hey, we just experienced an outage. And then what they do is they'll get on the radio and mark our dispatch, at which time the dispatch will be able to dispatch the officers, or they'll call in on their personal cell phones
And
and say,
then
hey, there's a call that just came in.
for that service, we then we pay a fee like everybody else in the county. does.
No.
We don't.
No,
Power outage.
Not in those circumstances.
Okay.
no.
Good. Okay.
it's equivalent to us running mutual aid for them. And then
All
they
right.
would also run mutual aid for us as well.
That's good.
Good conversation. Was good. All right. Anything else about the generators that we want to touch on or?
Say we got to get some numbers.
We'll start
Yeah.
investigating.
Appreciate it.
It's great.
The last item that we really have on here, item number 6, the Trailhead Park parking lot paving quotes. We have 2 of them here. Jack?
Yes.
Ooh,
As you can see, you got one from Mid-Ohio and you got one from
Well,
All Extreme Asphalt. And
is that better than just normal asphalt?
I guess it's extreme asphalt. So, you know,
Or the price is extreme.
but
Gotta have some levity here.
the quote I sent you that was what I would call the best quote was $43,000 to do that. Talked with them today because I also talked with them about the water plant paving. We're not going to do the sewer plant paving. And good conversation. If we would not require them to do this paving until this is Law Extreme is the group that got the South Oregon Phase 3 project. They said if we would allow them to hold back and do all that paving at once, they would reduce the trailhead by $1,000 lump sum because that would be their mobilization fee. And then the water plant, they would also reduce by $1,000. So what you have in front of you is the trailhead because the water plant has already been approved and it's there, and I was getting ready to do the work. But they didn't want to bring in their equipment now and then again later. So, so basically, instead of 43,000, it's 42,000, but $1,000 is $1,000. If we want to wait and let them pave it all at the same time.
What's is there a delay then on South Oregon?
Oh, no.
No.
They were going to do these when they come in to pave South Oregon.
Okay.
So this fall,
Yeah.
late,
well,
late summer.
Yeah, they should start South
Oh.
Oregon around July 10th. Was the thought. It would start around, I think that was it, wasn't it? Yeah.
Sounds right.
Mid early July.
Yeah.
And after they got all the water line repair and all the curb and gutter done, then they were going to come in and pave. And he said, well, if we don't have to come in beforehand, we just mobilize once and I'll knock off the mobilizing for each one of those other.
But we just don't want
Areas.
to run into the situation we ran into recently of it being delayed and having to overlay the winter and,
Oh, well, yeah,
Oh, no,
yeah.
no, no.
South Oregon would be first.
okay,
It's going to happen
all
first.
right, good.
So if the work goes as planned and timed as they want, they will get it paved, but the big thing is the milling, as he explained to me, bringing that milling machine in, then taking it out, and then bringing it back in for a different, like if we do the water plant in and out, then bringing it back for Oregon Street, he said, if you'll just be patient, let's do it all at once. When we do Oregon Street, he said, I'll take $1,000 off of each of the other
Well,
two.
this is at the water plant. The idea is we're gonna mill it, pave it.
But all the new construction is going to happen on the end that is not milled and paved.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Towards JYA.
Yeah, towards JYA and I'm not gonna let them park equipment on our new paving, which they won't want to.
Okay.
The trailhead, as you know, that section has no pavement on it, so
Right.
it would be all new. It would be base coat and then top coat.
Okay.
So I thought the trailhead, you guys needed firmed up numbers, so I wanted to bring you both quotes. And then the quote you have from Law is even $1,000 less if we would wait until South Oregon.
Jack, I have one question. They don't have striping. Is that something we're gonna do ourselves of the parking lot?
We certainly can do that ourselves. We can either paint it, we can thermoplast it, but striping was not part of the bid
Okay.
on that.
Um,
The street guys, I think the areas they have striped and done,
Done a
I
great
think they do a
job.
fine job.
looks
you know,
nice.
I would let them do it. And if we want to do it in thermoplast, I would come back to council and say, hey, I need a little money for thermoplast.
You don't have any idea what that,
Oh, based on what they did around
Talking
the school and
3,000,
stuff like that, I would
5,000.
say $2,500 to $3,000. What's that?
Did you say 2,000? So that's part of it.
Well, and yeah, because if we had them stripe it, they would call in another company because these guys won't stripe it. They would call in another company.
Right.
Jack-
And Bailey, when do we find out about Nature Works? Oh, sorry.
The NatureWorks application says autumn of 2021. So
Right around this. So we would know. Well,
Well, again, we don't have to do it,
right.
but if we could do it at the same time,
why not?
it would save, well, why not save $1,000 if you can? And as Marvin said, that thousand we save could go towards the thermoplast, so. Now, if we decide we're not going to do it, well, then we just don't do it.
And you've got your sheet out there. The numbers.
But if you look at the Mid-Ohio price, you know, it's a fair, I think this was a more than competitive number. And I think it's because they knew they're going to be in town anyway, they would like to do all the work.
And we've had good experience with them.
They actually did the Edwards Road from Maine
Oh, that's,
to Oregon. They did that piece on Edwards Road and expanded that over to the funeral home parking lot. And yeah, they did that section for us 1, 2, 3 years ago.
Yes.
and it's held up pretty well.
Oh, yeah, it's done well. They put the new drainage in on there.
This is where we need Dana, so we can ask her, where would we get the money from?
Street maintenance.
Well, and if you look at the revenue, we're up 288,000 where we think we should be. So, and she's expecting a $67,000 increase on our real estate bill
Of course,
over budget.
this would be a park and rec
Yeah, not
fund
totally.
item,
But
Above.
Okay.
but it all basically comes out of general
it
fund.
does, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So right now, above budget, we're around 340 if things stay constant. 340,000.
Right.
So we would have to have a decision to them, I would say by mid-August. Because they're going to pave South Oregon anyway.
Mhm.
So they wouldn't have to know right away. I mean, they don't have to know tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to tie in
Does
with
it help?
Bailey's decision.
Move that along,
No, they're coming in July no matter what.
coming in July, we don't
Yep.
have, it's gonna be here.
Because that's their schedule. They were scheduled to come in and start that job in July.
And how much did we ask nature for?
I believe that we asked them for 36,000.
Which was the entire allocation of the county, right?
Yeah, which we didn't
No,
have.
the
much.
entire allocation was 59,000 for the county.
So we actually, I don't think we should bank on that,
Mhm.
that we would get that much of that allocation.
So you've gotten so much already.
It's not a very exciting project for them to, publicize. I think they're gonna want to fund some more fun projects.
They like playgrounds, slides, swing sets, kids activity stuff. Not everybody thinks blacktop is exciting as I do. Well, we actually paid TLV Excavating to come in, take the muck out, put a base coat in and a top coat. It's very firm.
Good question.
For what it's worth, and you folks, and I know Marvin knows this, 40 grand won't get you hardly anywhere on a street.
Yeah, but if you think about from just a public perception standpoint,
Pub-
we,
Public
Okay.
doesn't understand that.
I'd also like to point out that planning and zoning requested that we pave the parking lot when they gave us a variance.
do they give us a time frame?
2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
2 years. I think the variance is conditional upon making sure that I think it's in the state that it is now, with at least a rough aggregate base so that to cut down on the dust. So I think the way that it is right now, you're exactly right, Bailey, but I think the way that it is right now satisfies the condition to where if we didn't do it this year, that we would have next year to be able to do it. Looking at the dollars, I don't know where it would come from. Because right now we've got 19.5 balance in general fund, 15 left in state highway, and we have 64 in street. In Dana's notes, she's projecting $40,000 shortfall in the state highway funds to the gasoline tax based off of how last year.
But we know where we can recoup that.
True, that is true. So
We're gonna do that. We're gonna take federal money for that.
that is true. That would come from the ARP. So that would be a non-factor. So at this point, to tie it out until those funds were in hand and we could back those in.
The
it
only
would have
other,
to come out of the street fund. at this-
sorry,
You're fine.
the only other pitch I want to make for paving that, and I'm a big proponent of paving streets,
Mm.
is once the dog park goes in, I think the traffic over there is going to be even greater than it is now. Now that gravel, great point. He did a nice job putting it in. It's sitting firm, but by the time it sits a winter and snows and rains and, we'll probably have to redress that, which won't cost $40,000. But we'll probably have to redress it annually to keep, because gravel eventually, it'll get punchy if the water's not sheeting off of it, which is what asphalt does. It sheets it. So the only thing I would say is, boy, it's hard to argue against myself because I like paving roads. is the dog park, I think is going to create a lot more traffic over there, and that stone parking is going to see more and more heavy traffic.
With respect to the quote, and Marvin made a good point, the base that's over there already, would that not satisfy some portion of the base if they already discounted that piece? They've got about $5,100 in here for a limestone aggregate base, but if we've already put a base in there,
That,
they need,
that $5,100 is just for certain spot leveling and smoothing, and they want to put limestone in there to lock everything, because we got round stone over there now, and it'll move, it'll shift. This limestone that goes on top will sit in there, and those jagged edges will lock. I would not forego that $5,000 and worry that my asphalt on top, because the stone underneath is not locked in place.
Mhm.
I just,
So
you know, if it was a major number that we could save, but for $5,000, I wouldn't compromise the asphalt if we were going to do it.
And then Jim, you referred to the federal funds. Exactly what federal funds are we referring to?
you're allowed under it's ARP, right? ARP.
American Rescue?
Under that plan, we're allowed to recoup revenue
Mhm.
that we lost. Gasoline taxes is allowed. It's one of the funds you're allowed to recoup. So we can make ourselves whole.
Based on 2019 levels.
Based on 2019.
I think they give you a 4% increase plus. So
So
Dana will have to figure out what that,
she'll have to figure out what
Gap
that
is.
number is, but we're allowed to do that.
based on that, we would more than make up for the cost of what this would.
Right, and I don't think there's any other funds that we've lost that we could recoup. I think that's
just income tax.
income tax, yeah. No, those two are about the only ones we're gonna qualify for.
But yeah,
I don't have a problem with the 40,000. I mean, yeah, we'll catch some heat for it, but I think with the dog park, we have to realize there are gonna be a lot of folks who are gonna use that and are gonna drive there daily with Fido, and you know, I think we gotta bite the bullet.
so Cheryl,
Yeah.
this is just month to date, so today,
Yeah.
in 2019. Last year, so we're gonna make that up. Plus.
Okay,
Yeah, so we,
So that'll show as revenue in this month.
okay. And when will we get that money?
It should be deposited here anytime, probably next 30 days.
Oh, really?
Should have been the end of
First
May,
half.
the first half,
The first
500,000.
half,
and
okay.
then
We're
we
gonna get
can,
500,000.
Mhm.
And then when she reports it, she's gonna say, okay, we're gonna put $144,000 into our general fund.
Mhm.
So she'll report that as an expense against that 500, and then we still have, 360 left.
In all honesty, a portion of that would even flow into CIP because a portion of income tax automatically goes into
yeah,
your
so
capital improvement funds regardless. So
depending on how much it is,
it would, I
it would pay
feel like
towards
it
that.
would at least contribute a portion towards this because right now the capital fund is zeroed out as we had projected would be for this year.
Right.
But that would be.
So we'll
another-
do that calculation for income tax as well as gas tax.
Okay, all right.
Sure, certainly. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and absolutely. Your comment just made me think about if that, and it sounds like it is, the quote took into account what we had down there
Yes.
already, and it does.
Yeah, otherwise, there would be a lot more
Yeah,
on it.
that's fair.
But I think, I don't know how we want to deal with that, but I think we need to do it. you know?
When is the dog park projected to come online?
As soon as we can get a good contractor on schedule, which we're currently having trouble with.
'Cause the funds are there. It's just a matter of finding the person to do the work, right?
Yeah,
At the fund level we have.
It's a fun level.
Yes.
Cause they wouldn't charge us more.
Yeah, materials are a lot of money right now.
Mhm.
So we're working with some of them to kind of work through options that we have and then hopefully get on the schedule. A lot of people are pretty busy right now too. So even if we could get on the schedule, you know, like even if we told them Friday, we're ready to go, they wouldn't be able to get us in next week. So we're working
Is it
on
like
that. I think we're pretty close to getting
months
somebody.
away, or is it like next year?
When I talked to Tony Baldwin, he said he's probably 6 to 8 weeks out right now. So
So 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, that would put us pretty much in line with,
the completion of South Oregon and
Yeah.
South
the
Oregon
pavement
and-
start, yeah.
well, I think knowing that money's coming softens the blow because you know that you're going to have some money to backfill some of that revenue that we can justify using it for. And we already have the investment into the dog park down there and the other investment that we have into that space, especially the sidewalk that's going to be going from that part of the parking lot to the trailhead, right? Or to the shelter house. It's gonna be
Yes.
coming from the gravel part of the parking lot at the
No,
moment.
no. It's gonna come from the trailhead
From the
itself
trail itself. Okay.
into the center of the shelter house. That's the
Okay.
way we've got it set up.
I think we can feel comfortable moving forward with it, with what we have coming in.
I'm good with it.
Yeah,
think it's just-
And I want to,
choose Law Extreme or whoever, what the next.
well, price wise, they're the right way to go. But I also want to repeat, we don't have to sign any contract with them tonight. I will tell him our intent.
Mhm.
He sweetened the pot because he would hate to see Mid-Ohio Paving come in when he's going to be here anyway. So he did this. His quote was already better.
Yeah.
But he said, if you'll wait and let me do it all at once. And so I see no reason that I can't call him and say, yeah, that seems like a reasonable thing. We've signed no contract with him. If you determine in 30 days that, we really can't do this, he will still get the water plant project because his
And he
quote,
can bid on our North Oregon
I'm sure he will.
Edwards Road
North
project.
Oregon,
Oh.
Upham, Edwards Road project.
When are you planning to put that out?
Thursday at 10 o'clock, I actually have a meeting with Prime Engineer to see when we're going to get these items out to bid. Because they told me mid-June. My fear is I don't know that
That's
the
today.
township is ready
Oh,
and they have to be bid as one project. I did talk to Troy the other day and he says, oh, I think we can get that ready in a couple weeks. And then I haven't heard back.
I've seen estimates. I haven't seen plans. You sent me an estimate.
Yeah, I sent you the estimate, but I don't know how you can bid it without the plans.
I agree.
Are we
you know,
tied
and that-
into their estimate?
No, we're tied into our estimate.
Our estimate, right? It's
Yeah.
up to the yellow line.
Yeah.
Sure did.
Well, when I talked to him, he says, well, call Jim. Jim's leading the project. And I said, Jim has led the project. I said, ours is under design and should be ready to go mid-June. But I said, our engineers are not designing your portion. You have to get that portion
Right.
designed. Troy went, oh. That's the only thing that concerns me because he felt confident though they could get it designed in a couple weeks. And boy, that's pretty short order stuff. But again, his work with the county engineers, he believes he can get it done. So I'm hoping, but I will put a call into him the end of this week after I have a meeting with our engineers to get our final timeline. And I'm just going to tell him, here's our timeline. Will you be ready?
But the whole project has to be bid at
Yeah,
once.
because it went in as an application as one job.
Okay.
So it needs to be bid as one job. Then we'll have to discuss with the township. I assume we'll split the bidding 50-50 and then they'll just pay whatever their portion is and we'll pay what our portion is. I see a look on Mayor's face like
50, but
I'm
on
bidding
the bidding
services.
cost.
bidding services. Okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking
Construction?
size of the project. I mean,
No, 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 no,
Yours
no.
is much bigger than ours.
No, the bidding, I assume we'll just split that cost 50-50. But our internal inspection and our portion, we will pay for, they'll have to pay for their section.
I don't know what the length of Edwards Road is, but if they're going all the way to the county line and ours is just to the yellow line, there's a big difference.
Oh, yeah, we'll pay the proportionate cost.
Okay, all right.
Correct. So I'll know more Thursday after I meet with Prime when we will be ready.
Okay.
And then I'll let Troy know when we will be ready. And then see how soon he's ready.
Right.
So for the comfortability, then we'll just take a quick vote on law moving forward with them. But the funding source TBD post ARP, because if we can take it out of capital, I think that's probably where it's best suited, or street or something, state highway fund, if it makes the most sense. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to move forward with the intent to use law for the paving of the bike path parking lot with the funding source TBD.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, aye. Any other business?
Quick
Yes.
update. Last couple days or week or so, been kicking around some personnel issues or staffing issues in the front office. So hopefully in the next few weeks, you'll have a proposal before you regarding bringing on either a part-time or a full-time admin person to support the redundancy of the water and sewer billing, as well as accounts payable and the finance department for consideration. Because if either one of Teresa, Laura, and or Dana walk out the door, our redundancy isn't there. So we want someone to backfill that spot, as well as potentially so that moving some other duties and responsibilities around. So just want to give you that heads up that I'll be sharing what the overall thing will look like once I figure that part out. So just want to let you know, just due to the amount of work we have going on, plus the anticipated capital projects are coming down the pike as well. Need a little bit of help on the project side. So anyway, long story short, just want you to know that anticipation of what's going to happen in the future. Just need a little bit of support. That's all I had.
We
We're not-
voted 3-0.
We're not
Three
moving
to
forward.
nothing, we're
with
not doing it. And
We got 16 minutes. You can.
Ben's gonna share it in his report tonight to
Yeah.
get you and Doug's input.
Astronomical. Astronomical.
One lady has bright pink hair. I was like,
Yeah, Marvin,
Think about concreting that whole thing, Marvin.
Couple bags of Quickcrete from Ace.
It would be $100,000.
They're that far away right now. Really?
for AEP, we decided on finance not to move forward with that, maintain our ownership in it as a village, and to look at what the cost would be over time to change it in that respect, rather than doing anything with AEP. Yeah. Yep. So that's where we are, and we'll talk about it in council tonight real quick, and then Jim will be able to give the update to AEP tomorrow.
is there anything else you guys have that we need to be aware of?
That was the street position that you had talked about?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
We had talked about that.
We're fully staffed. At Jack's place?
Well, yeah, the other meeting, we were talking about adding an employee. I need to continue to talk with Mike Guttridge
Yeah.
a little bit.
It was the
About
street
that.
department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just as soon as you know, we'll
And
put it on and we'll
They
figure
did
it
it
out for sure.
doing the curbs uptown. They did a very good job.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll let him know. Or you can let him know.
I did, I told them.
So,
I was there when they were doing it. And I told them what a good job they did.
All right. I'll go ahead and make a motion
Oh,
to
and
adjourn.
You could remind your sewer people if they want their lunch, they need to get it in the next week.
okay.
Same for the police officers.
Yes, sir.
We've had some, but not everybody's.
Okay,
So,
I will do that.
Second to adjourn.
Oh, yes, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
Aye.